So let's start. Okay, so learn, unlearn, and relearn is the theme for Wednesday's series of Point of View. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Point of View series. Today is our 26th episode, and the Point of View is a live online talk show where we invite guests to share their knowledge, experiences, wisdom, or perspective with our audience. The purpose of this session is to enlighten each other and hopefully along the line of getting the light bulb moments that perhaps we all could act upon for the betterment of ourselves and also for others around us. My name is Jacqueline Joannis. I'll be hosting the session today, but I'm not the only host as usual. Sheikh Omar to also host the session. And with us today, as you can see on your screen, we have brand new face on the show. My good friend, Shuza. Thank you. Thank you so much for agreeing to this session. And our regular panel guests every Wednesday, Darren Suresh. We are certainly honored to have both of you on the show. To our viewers, thank you so much for your continuous support. And to all live viewers, thank you for dropping by. We hope that however long you choose to be part of the session, you'll gain something out of it. So talking about gaining in this context is learning something from our sharing. And I always believe it works in two ways other than from listening to us. It will be much more impactful if you can be part of the session by you asking questions, and also you are allowed to actually give your opinion or perspective with regards to the topic that we have chosen today. So therefore, I would like to encourage all of you live viewers to ask questions and also be part or share your knowledge and experiences. How are you going to do that is you can type in those in the comment section, or you can also PM or private message either me or Omar during live or even later in case you are watching this on recording, because this session or the video will be on my Facebook wall until Facebook decide not to. So as usual, without further ado, let's introduce ourselves. Omar, Darren, Shuza, and I are corporate trainers. We are also coaches, mentors, and also speakers in our own specialization. So let's hear from you about yourself. So let's start with Omar.
Hi, everybody. My name is Omar, and I'm going to make my introduction real quick because in the background, there's some drilling going on. You know, they're retiling my son's bathroom. So, yeah, they've been at it all morning. So, okay, anyway, I call myself a conversation coach because I help people develop confidence with conversations and also to get insights into how to be a great communicator or conversationalist. Okay, let me pass it back on to Darren.
Thank you, Omar. I like your scuffiness of your beard. Looks cool on you. Right. Hi, guys. I'm Darren Suresh, founder of Awesome Tribes. My specializations include customer service, communication, leadership. I focus also quite a bit on team building. I create gamifications for corporate and also for leadership levels. So that's me. I love the aspect of people, how I got into training. I think Omar and Jacqueline knows my story purely by accident. And I just love the journey. I just love taking journeys. So the journeys are the ones which are very important. Hence why I think today, based on what we're going to be talking about, it's going to be a great journey for all four of us. So I'll pass it back to Jacqueline, or is it Suzer who wants to introduce herself?
Let's hear from Shuza.
Hi everybody, Suzu here, dialing in from Damansara, and thank you for inviting me. This is my first time with you guys here. And I'm trained in psychology, but in the last 20 odd years, my role has largely been in the area of organization strategy and also people strategy. Yeah, so a lot of people have been asking me, what have you been doing this MCO? In fact, been really busy. I just completed a book right before MCO. And then when MCO came, it was a perfect timing for me to re-edit it. Yeah, because the book is on human race 4.0. It's about how do we, continue to thrive and work together in the new world order, in the new environment. So when MCO came, when pandemic came, it kind of like escalate the whole thing into the environment that I've been talking about. Yeah. So that's what I've been busy doing. Yeah, on top of the webinars with my clients and stuff like that.
All right. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you, Sujal.
Mhm.
Okay, like for me, profession-wise, for 13 years, I work in learning and development in a few companies. I started at MNC status company and followed by 2 MNC's company. So I left my 9 to 5 job and embarked into 7 a.m. to 12 a.m. job in 2013. Founded a company called Professional Advancements Resources and an academy called Asia Image Development Academy, or AIDA. For now, my area of focus is image consultancy, personal and professional growth and development. 70% of my business comes from corporate trainings, and the rest is one-on-one coaching and mentoring. Okay, so in this 26th episode, we are going to discuss about a subject which is popularized by John C. Maxwell, how successful people think. And we are zooming into the area around big picture thinking. So continue on. I hand over handle to Omar.
Okay, big picture thinking. This is a topic about how successful people think. And Darren is going to share some of the highlights with us. And, when you go through this, you'll realize that everything is a skill and it's learnable. Success secrets are learnable. And so today we're going to get some great tips from Darren. So take it away, Darren.
Thank you, Omar. Now, the book which I have in hand, which is the How Do Successful People Think. I think most of you probably either read the book or gone through the particular topic that we're going to be speaking about. Just to take a step back about the book and how it actually impacts me. When the CMCO, or rather when the MCO came in March, I think many people felt well, we always conditioned to feel more comfortable. We always okay with our comfort levels in Malaysia, and Malaysia is like one of the most comfortable countries ever. So when this came in, it challenged a lot of people on their comforts because it pushes us into a norm which we are not used to, and it's been a challenging one for many people, right? For me personally, in March there was a moment, maybe in the first week of MCO, I resisted against a lot of the norms of MCO. I didn't like it. I had to stay at home. Radius of travel was limited. Resources are so limited. Cannot meet people. Cannot go out. And being an extrovert, I love meeting my group of friends. I love getting connected. The human engagement was very high on my list, and I couldn't do all of that. And at one point, I felt a little bit, not depressed, but I felt a little bit frustrated maybe that all this was going on, and I felt helpless. But I remembered the lessons from reading this book, and I went through it again, and I noticed that it really helped me to get through this period a lot. Right down to currently, we are in the recovery phase, which is RMCO, which I think is very encouraging for us, Malaysia, where a lot of sectors of the economy is being started up by the government. In this book, it actually says about how successful people think, and we are actually talking about the first chapter, which is the cultivation of big picture thinking. So the first thing that we want to change about ourselves to become successful in whatever that you do is to change the way we think, because we are actually human beings are actually conditioned creatures. We are conditioned to believe in a reality. We are conditioned to believe that that is our four walls, and we react and respond according to our reality. So if you want to be successful, you have to condition or recondition your mind to go to that level. I give you an example is like maybe a person coming from a poor family, coming from a family where the father and mother are not highly educated, just normal laborers. but the son or the daughter wants to be someone successful. He or she will have to recondition the mind to break out from the norm. The expectation is that if you can get to SPM, it's a good thing already for this kind of situation. But that person wants to get a degree, that person wants to become a doctor. So that person has to recondition how he or she chooses to think. The key word here is choice. We can choose to recondition our mind, right? Let's try out a reconditioning exercise with all of us here. So I'm going to mention something here, and I want you to mention the first thing that comes to your mind when I mention this particular thing. What if I said to you, who has the best French fries in the world? What's the brand that comes to your mind right now?
McDonald's.
Wow.
Okay.
Also, and then, okay, hang on.
Suddenly the golden arches, right, comes to
Yeah.
your mind, and you go like, oh, like that. So
But then,
what if I tell you?
Darren,
What if? Yeah.
sorry, I just have this. Okay, when you ask that question, I have this thinking suddenly with that, right? And then in a split second, I have this another thought that really, it's actually another brand is nicer, you know. Like, how is that so?
Yeah, but then it's not necessary that McDonald's have the best French fry. We were just conditioned to believe they do. Actually, I'm going to be very honest with you because I got inside information. They have the worst French fries in the world. If you go to McDonald's and you bite the French fry, take a look at it. Is it hollow? It's hollow. If it's hollow, that's the worst grade of potato ever. Even KFC has better French fries than McDonald's. It's just that we were conditioned to believe McDonald's has the best French fries, so we just go with it.
Now,
right?
now Darren is conditioning us.
Yeah, so I'm reconditioning you. I'm reconditioning you not to eat French fries from McDonald's, right? Because they are the worst. They're very unhealthy for you, right? So yes, so that's called reconditioning. So you see, you're conditioned to believe in a certain thought, and if no one challenges that condition, you're just going to be that way, or you're going to be stuck in that area all the time. Hence why, if you want to be successful, you have to condition and recondition the way you think. And one method is to create or cultivate big picture thinking. So this is one of the ways which I noticed that how people become successful is to think differently, is to have the bigger picture. How do we do it? If you have read through the book, there's 4 L's. 4 L's mentioned by John C. Maxwell, and I think the L's really tells the story lah, right? If you look at the first L, learn continually. That means the ability to learn, the ability to use every aspect of our life as a learning opportunity, right? The attitude of wanting to learn is very important. Sometimes we reach a certain level in our life where we may think that we know it all. You know, I'm sure all of you being corporate trainers, you have met people like that before. I've actually trained production operators in a factory who are very eager to learn because they really have the learner's attitude. I've met CEOs or C-suite people, right? CFOs and CEO, and they think that they know everything in the world, but actually they don't really know everything in the world, right? So it's the attitude of learning. We never stop learning, no matter what level you are, whether you are a master trainer, whether you have been doing this for God knows how long, you must have the learner's attitude to learn from wherever areas that you can, because only then do you progress. To become a big picture thinker, you must be able to find every opportunity, every channel to learn. We can learn from books, we can learn from YouTube videos, we can learn from children, we can learn from anywhere, right? So that L, the first L, the learner's attitude must be there. Yes, Jacqueline?
Before you continue to the next 3L, perhaps also good for us to backtrack a little bit, because let's also have some kind of like variation, perhaps variation of understanding, or rather having a common understanding around what does it mean by having big picture thinking. A lot of time, everyone, when they see or when they read this statement around big picture thinking, what does it really mean, right, Darren? Before we are thinking, or before we are going in depth around how do we have that big picture thinking, so let's maybe we can discuss a little bit. What does it mean by big picture thinking in your understanding? Maybe let's start with Shuza.
Yep. Thank you for that introduction, Darren. I really appreciate that. And John Maxwell is one of the leadership guru that I've followed ever since when I just started working. Yeah, so I have a lot of his book and continue to learn from him. Absolutely somebody that I really look up to and I respect. Now, big picture thinking, yes, there are a lot of concepts that's flying around, and of course, a lot of people also say that we must have big picture thinking, especially today in today's environment where things are really changing very fast. And yesterday, I read an article that says we ought to be a generalist rather than a specialist, or maybe perhaps it is a time where we have to be a jack of all trades and master of one. Yeah, so you have the all, but you at the same time you are able to see where you fit in or what you do, does it still fit in or not. And what I like John Maxwell wrote about that book is, I didn't read the whole book, I read the summary of the book, and one of the things he started by saying that we must have empathy. Now what it means is this, when MCO came down and a lot of people start asking what should I be doing, company are asking what should I be doing, some people who their job are affected or their businesses are affected, and the first thing is like, okay, what should I be doing next? The first question we should be asking is not about what should I be doing next. A big picture thinking is about, now this whole environment, this whole world is changing, has changed, right? So what is happening out of me, right? What is happening around the world? Yeah, what is happening to my clients, yeah, to the person we serve or to the people that we dance and dine with, right? And then therefore, what am I doing now? Is it still relevant? Yeah, is it still serving to the environment and to the needs now? So big picture thinking is being able to step beyond ourselves and look at outside of us and make sense of what is happening now. And Darren also say one of the first thing, I'm eager to listen to your another 4L. The first one, learning, right? And the way how we have, like when we say recondition our mind, which actually I wrote it in my book, one of the chapter, it's about your mind. And the way how we recondition our mind, there are two key very important elements. First is what we allow to come into our mind. Okay, yeah, the media that we read, yeah, the social that we mingle with, yeah, the inputs, that's the first thing, yeah, that will actually condition our mind. Yeah, if you are with the chicken, then we become like chicken lah, right? Yeah, so we eager them. So we heard that story before. Now the second thing is this: we need to control our mind. Okay, take captives of what what's in our thoughts. Yeah, through the days, there's always positive, negative thoughts. What do you choose to think? All right? Yeah, do we choose to focus on problem issues? Yeah, there are a lot of problems that's happening around the world, right? Yeah, but can we be part of can we participate to make any changes to the environment or not? If we can't, why even focus on it? Right? So take captive our mind and focus on what are the problem and what solution can I be a part of. Right? Yeah, so big picture thinking is external and what you allow in, and also what you allow to be, moving inside your head. Yeah, so this is really important.
Yeah, so can I say this? Making it real. Referencing both what Darren and Susan mentioned. So when we got into this MCO situation, a lot of people are freaking out, right? They're freaking out because they're looking at what they've been doing every day, and then how can they cope with this and cope with that. So what we're saying is, Darren, when we talk about big picture thinking, is to take a step back and look at the entire situation from a bird's eye view and ask relevant questions like the ones you brought up, Susan. Like what is really happening? What makes sense to me? What can I do? What can't I do? How can I adapt? So is that something that, is that along the lines of what big picture thinking is, Darren?
I think there's some lagging.
Yes, Omar and Susan, I think both of you are correct. So big picture thinking also encompasses about the goal in hand, the end goal. And for us to achieve the end goal, which is the bigger picture, we have to be able to go through the hurdles. So if you were to look at it from an easier point of view about hurdles, it's like having the macro, but still doing the micro. That means the macro is to do this, to achieve this, but you must understand that you must still do the micro all the way. So you're going to be hitting hurdles along the way, but towards a bigger picture, yeah, towards a bigger goal. So that's big picture thinking.
So I guess taking from that point, yeah, Darren, having a big picture thinking, it doesn't mean that you don't go into the details part of it, because a lot of this, the 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 conclusion, or rather when you look at things from the bigger perspective, it comes from the details of experiences, or rather what have you observed from it surrounds you. It can be from your experience, from what have you been observing others doing, and what have you consumed from the news, from what do you see surrounds you. I think that gives you an idea, or rather the accumulation part of it will help you in terms of the bigger part of the whole thing, right? Because why, a lot of times when, you know, we have people, well, at least for me, I have encountered people that, you know, very visionaries. They have this inclination of just looking from the bigger perspective, but that doesn't mean that these people don't look at the trees. They look at they see forest, but they also see every single thing, including the monkeys, birds, and the people, or the whatever that in the jungle, right, Darren?
Yes, correct. So it's like, if you use an example of a simple example to understand, it's like wanting to hike up Mount Kinabalu. Okay, that's the end goal, that's the big picture. So you must understand there is work to be done that leads up to the big picture. Example, my big picture is to hike up Mount Kinabalu, but I know for me to achieve that big picture, I need to put in the work. The micro is that I need to get my stamina and fitness up. I need to practice going up stairs, going up hills. I need to build up to a certain level of confidence, my self-esteem. So it leads up to the big picture. There's no such thing as, I want to hike up Mount Kinabalu, big picture, then tomorrow you actually take a trip up to Mount Kinabalu. High chance that you probably won't make it up the mountain. So yes, keeping the big picture in mind, but understanding that doing the work, the micro that leads to the big picture. So that's pretty much the definition of what big picture thinking is about.
Right. Okay, so you mentioned about there are 4 L's. So you mentioned about
Yes.
the first one, which is learn, continue to learn from your surrounding, from your experiences, and you know, keep on learning. Okay, before that, yeah, I noticed that when we were talking about the learning part, a person who has a big picture thinking, they are very teachable then. It doesn't mean that they know everything, yeah? They keep on looking at what are the things that can be improved about themselves, or about, yeah, any area of their life. So yeah, shall we proceed to the next L, Darren?
Okay, so yeah, so the first L, like I mentioned earlier, was learn continually. That means finding opportunities to learn and finding every channels to learn, or they call that the lifelong learners, right? Doesn't matter how old you are still learning. That's about the learn. Second L is listen. Now, I'm sure you've heard this saying or heard about it, where it says that a true leader listens first and speaks last. Okay, by listening, we actually learn something from someone. When you want to learn about a subject matter from the gurus or from the people who are masters themselves, you need to sit down and have a conversation with them, ask probing questions, at the same time listen to their answers, right? It's like, if I want to learn about image consulting and how image consulting can impact people's confidence level, I need to sit down with Jacqueline and listen to what she says, because I am not an expert in image consulting. If I want to learn about psychology, right? And how psychology can impact individuals and corporate world, I will have to talk to Susa about it, and she is the expert in it, and she can talk to us about it. If I want to learn about how to be a great conversationalist and what would be the insights in how to be, I need to sit down with Omar and let Omar tell me, so I listen from this. There's no shame in learning from people who are masters at it. Sometimes I think people in corporate world, they think that just because they reach a certain level, they're supposed to know it all. That's a very big myth. You're not supposed to know it all. So the second one, which is listen, is to have the ability to listen to the masters and ask the right questions. Because like I think I shared with Jacqueline and Omar the story that sometimes even when I go in a Grab car, I have conversations with the Grab driver and listen to their stories. And sometimes I'll be surprised because they may have something to share and teach me that can enrich my life because I didn't know. You know, sometimes I even learn something from my participants who are in the class. You never know. You just have to listen to them, right? So that's the second one, listen. So maybe feedback from Omar or Suzo on listening. Do you think that this is an important skill set to have?
Yeah, maybe just to take on that point, Darren, when you mentioned about that in our previous discussion around, you know, having the ability or forcing, not really forcing, try to have the ability to expand your horizon, right? I think by allowing yourself to, or rather giving yourself the permission to list to acquire as much as possible from other people, right? So, Suza, what's your take on that?
Oh,
On
what is
listen?
your question? Sorry. I was reading one of our observers' comments
Yeah,
here. Very
yeah.
interesting.
I will acknowledge it later from Nur Alina, right? But
Mm,
let's hear from you.
mm.
The number 2 of
On
L
the
is
listening, right?
listening. Listen, yeah.
Yeah. Listening is a key point where we actually become successful in whatever we want to do. Yeah, and one of the frequent questions that I always get from my client during webinar is like, how do I get my boss buy-in? How do I get my stakeholder buy-in? You know, then I say you talk less, listen more. Right now, how do we do this? Is this whenever we do a proposal either to our stakeholders or clients, you know, we tend to focus a lot on the benefit that they're going to get, and more often than not they already know. Okay, yeah, and when they are not responding favorably to what we expect, very often there are key concerns that they have not shared. Okay, things that is still within them. Now, in human hierarchy of needs, there's only, of course, Maslow, he has these five. I keep it short into three main one. Okay, so the first one is the basic needs, right? And it's very normal that nowadays, you know, if you face any rejection, objection, whatever, in whatever that you're proposing, could it be their main concern is their basic needs, yeah, to be able to protect and provide, right? Are they concerned that whatever proposal, if we move forward, yeah, or if they take it up, is going to impact their basic needs, right? And the second one is the social or psychological needs, the belonging, yeah, to be known, to be acknowledged, to be respected, right? And in this age, like especially now during pandemic, most of the concern that people will have and even company will have is the first and second layer. Okay, the third one is, of course, you know, they want to be self-expression, yeah, actualization and things like that. And if companies or individuals, if we spend a lot of time focusing on engagement, which is the highest level, while their first and second level are not being taken care of, right, or we do not allow them to voice out, yeah, then we completely miss their point. All right, they could come into an action of I have seen like um, context that I know where they have to they feel so stressful at work, you know, their work, like the hours expanded, yeah, but they have came to a point where they do it because the boss asked them to, you know, it's become like automatic, yeah, because they're operating at the basic and psychological need, right? But it is not coming from I really want to do my best, right? Yeah, so whenever we face objection or rejection, yeah, to any proposal that we have, it is the best time to ask great questions, yeah, to hear them, to listen to them. And it actually helped our proposal or our project become much more better. Yeah, so I think it was John Maxwell who also said this, yeah, or it could be Stephen Covey who said this, listen, what do you call it, seek to listen first, yeah, before being understand before being understood, right? Yeah, seek to listen to others first, understand others first, before we make ourselves being understood.
Yeah.
Let me, before we continue on to Omar, let me address or rather acknowledge our audience. We have our viewer, one of our viewers, Nur Elina.
Long-term friend of mine. I know.
Okay. She said that I feel there is a big picture that you can't control, but more for some reality assessment around us. Then based on our own choice, we then have a big picture for our own self, which is my end in mind.
Yep.
That's
Yep.
right.
This is exactly what I shared earlier, right? Put it into life, like for example, when MCO came down, right? And of course, economy also go through, our Malaysia politics also go through a lot of sudden changes, right? Now, so assessment, the big picture is, whoa, what had happened? Then the next question is, what are the things that I can control? What are the things I cannot control? So there are people who ask me, what's your opinion about the policy? I say, I can't do anything, so I got no opinion. Easy said, right?
Exactly,
But if there's an election, I'm going to do my role, right? So, but for me to comment, I mean, I can make comment, I mean, but it's kosong lah. What for?
True.
Right? But if
we can reflect then. We can reflect and what can we learn and apply for ourselves. Maybe that's the best, right?
Yeah, precisely. Yeah, it's more of, yes, whatever I remember of things that I changed. Now, what can I do? Or what learning, what principle can I learn from that? All right, you point out a very, very good point, Jack. Yeah. So, and the other thing is, yes, ultimately looking back to our choice, which come back to control. You have input already, right? You control, right? Yeah. So you control what do we want to do? You know, how is it going to relevant? So that is about ownership. Exactly. Yeah. So, Alina, you definitely sum it up actually.
Right. The more I'm listening to all of you, right? Actually, big picture thinker person is actually a person who is able to dissect things really well and coming out a better conclusion out of a comprehensive conclusion out of all those little things that is happening around himself or herself, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And Ray Dalio is a very well-respected investor, hedge fund manager. And I read I follow him and read a lot of his thing. And his son recently just said this. He told his son, you can do, every one of us, we can do everything. Okay, we can be anything that we want to be. But the thing is, we cannot be everything. Okay? So we have to pick. This is where choice comes in. This is where ownership comes in.
And then taking to that point, linking back to Darren, in order for you to be able to have a variety of choices, one of the ways is by allowing yourself to listen, to listen to others, learning. I mean, listening here means more of the true meaning of that listening action that you're doing is taking information, learning out of what you're hearing, taking out of your observation, because listening is not just, you know, listening to the voices and listening to the sound, but rather understanding what are you taking, what are you looking, what are you observing in that person, and having a, you know, taking that as part of, you know, get for you to get that bigger picture. Am I right to say that, Darren?
Yeah. What you're saying, Jack, is exactly what I had in mind. So you took the words right out of my mouth.
Sorry.
But yeah,
Darren, here, sorry. Continue, Darren.
Sorry, I think Omar, you wanted to say something?
No, while we were waiting for your, I think there's a lag on in your connection. So while we were waiting for you, I was just saying that what Jack said. I echo exactly what Jack was saying about listening as collecting data. You know, we're basically collecting data. And the more you're open to listening, the more you're able to make better choices. Now, the problem with listening is that it's such a fundamental skill. It's easy to do, and yet it's also easy not to do. Right? What I mean by that is I can be standing in front of you and hearing what you're saying, but I'm actually listening to my own voices in my head. So if we can suspend that and really listen to external inputs, then it really helps in our decision making. Because listening is really not just about hearing; it's a thinking process. Yeah.
Okay, let's hear from Darren.
Yeah. So the correct phrase to be using in this is listen to understand, don't listen to hear. A lot of people listen to hear, but they don't listen to understand. And because of that, that's where we drop the ball in gaining more knowledge. So that leads up to the next L, which is look extensively. So putting ourselves in the perspective of others, seeing from others' point of view. So this is where I think Susan actually mentioned just now about empathy. We need to have very high empathy to activate our perspective from other people's point of view. If we don't have high empathy here, it won't work. It's ability to see things from outside the frame. That means there is a world outside your window. We need to not understand. You need to understand that the universe doesn't rotate around us. There is a world outside a window, and we need to be open to that world. Yeah, once you see from people's perspective and you walk in their shoes, so to speak, that's when you get to see the beauty of life and why big picture thinking helps you. So definitely, that's one of the key points here, where you actually you don't think inward, you think outward. Yes, like what Susan also mentioned, it's about the people around you, right? Opening up your head, your heart, and your hands to the situation around you and exploring it. Yeah, so that's the next L, which is looking. Yeah.
As I'm
Maybe
hearing,
some sharing from the rest of you.
yeah, as I'm hearing to your point, yeah, Darren, empathy leads to openness. So when you are open, that's where then the whole brain of yours, so your whole world become freely be okay with receiving something new or something that is perhaps you never thought before. Well, I mean, you can only justify those when you are open and you receive those information, you're willing to receive that information. Susan, what's your take on that?
Yep. Absolutely on point, and not Alina also has
Yeah.
shared. Yeah, listening is understanding and not replying. Totally agree with that, and it's not easy. Like Omar also said, it's easy not to do and easy to do and easy not to do. It's like how do we shut off and then listen? Yeah. And so it leads to then the question is how should we? What are the questions should we be asking? And there's another great book. It's called Leaders Ask Great Questions. Yeah, that is also a very powerful book. And I always a very simple coaching. I always say use these two questions. Very, very powerful question. Okay. First one is what do you mean? Okay. So when someone give their explanation, and in any explanation, it's just like a layer. It's like a onion. Right? So we start peeling layers and layers. So when you keep asking like, what do you mean? Can you care to explain more? Help me understand further. You allow them to actually tell you deeper the actual situations that they are facing. Okay? Yeah, and the other key questions to ask is, what would that mean? Why is it important to you? Okay, yeah, why this situation or why this concern, why is it important? Help me understand how is this important to you? Okay, or the other way of asking is that when you achieve it, what would it mean to you? Okay, so what do you mean? Allow us to go deeper, to understand them a lot deeper. This is where looking deeper, yeah, okay, and then and why is this important to you? Yeah, or how do you feel? It's what does that situation, what it mean to them, because what it meant to them and what it meant to us are very different. Now, one of the things during this period I've been doing is, on top of me giving talk, I also attend a few webinars, and especially on investment. And I realized this: there are two groups of people. There are one group of people who ask questions like what stock to buy, what property to buy, you know. Now, those are, we call it the lazy man way lah. Okay, just give me tips. Okay. Now, the right way of learning, if you really want to learn, is learning how to fish, right? So the right way of learning or the right way of asking questions and listening, it's you want to go deep into what is in their thought process, right? Which is the question, what do you mean come from? And also a emotive question. Okay, how do you feel, or what does it mean to you? Because ultimately, yes, we try to be logic and facts and whatever. Unfortunately or fortunately, our whole being, our mind, only 10% is logic. The other 90% is subconscious, 10% is conscious. Okay, the rest is subconscious and unconscious, and that really drives us. So you want to learn the principle behind, you know, their thought process, yeah, their decision making principle, rules, or everything, every success that is what do you call tested principle, yeah, and there are tested methods, or tested, I won't say methods, but principle, yeah, tested principle. Method can change, right? Yeah. Okay, so yes, listening and looking. When we say look deeper or look wider, yeah, it's look wider inside the human being, right?
Yeah, I love it when you link it with those questions, because those is actually also something that you can ask yourself. Having those narrative answering those questions will help you to gain that big picture thinking, right? I'm pretty much I like to ask myself questions, because that allows me to have some sort of like a guideline how to go further around something. So it's like me having that self monologue. Omar?
Completely agree. I think looking extensively when you talk about having empathy and asking questions, again, those are about getting input. You know, yeah, it all goes back down to listening still. And I think if you ask the right questions, you'll be okay. Let me back up a little bit. I think a lot of times the key to finding solutions to problems is by asking the right questions, right? If we are able to ask the right questions, we're able to come to the right answers, and being able to look at situations and asking those right questions is actually a bit of a skill. As you guys are talking about this, I'm just thinking about the time when I was a lot younger, and we don't even know what kind of questions to ask. You know, and I realize that when my kids are having issues, and I say, well, what do you think? What can you think about this? And they can't think, right? They can't think because they don't know what to ask. And I realize that a lot of times these questions that you need to ask comes from experience, right? So the more you experience, the more you look at situations, the more you listen, the more you're able to acquire these skills, right? So all of these things add up to the big picture thinking. And I'm just realizing that we're only discussing the third L. So there's still one more.
Right.
And we're running out of time already. So
I have
let's
a
get back to
question.
Darren.
Still, that third L, I have a question for Darren. Darren, you mentioned about looking deeper, which is for the third L, right? Can that be also done by you trying a lot of things? Trying action-wise, yeah, not only in terms of, you know, having that self-monologue, asking yourself a question, so asking others questions, but also you being there, trying, be open of trying a lot of new things, give yourself those chances of trying things which perhaps that will make you sweat, for example, just giving an example, or yeah, can that be, Darren?
That would actually be more for the last L. For the third L, which is looking, is actually to just have perspective. Perspective of putting yourself in the shoes of others, putting yourself in the view, or taking yourself out, or rather to understand comfort levels. to breaking your comfort levels, but not really on trying things, but it's more towards perspective. But if you're talking about the last L, where you are living, right? Then completely, yes, then maybe it's about you living your life fulfillingly, doing a lot of things, trying new things, going new places. That covers up in the last L. Also, there is a saying here in the book where he says that a man who have lived long may have lived very little. That means
Interesting.
some people live their life with a lot of restrictions. I won't do this, I won't do that, I won't go here, I won't go there, because that's how they were conditioned to believe in things. And they may reach the age of 70, 80, 90, and they have a lot of regrets in their life, right? I always encourage people, when you want to live your life fulfillingly, like what I do, what I practice in my life, have a bucket list, have things that you want to achieve in your life. It can be for anything. It can be for academics. You want to have an MBA, you want to have a PhD, you want to hike up Mount Kinabalu, you want to go to see the ancient pyramids. I don't know. So end of the day, live your life fully. That means do not shortchange yourself. Make sure that you give yourself the best. Because I always feel that if you do not live outside your circle, you're just very comfortable doing what you want to do. You do not learn a lot, because when you live your life, I'm not saying live your life dangerously, but live your life to the fullest extent of what you want. There is nothing like what you call Susan mentioned just now, that you can do you can't do everything. You can't do anything you want, but you can't be achieving everything in this world. But still, choose what you want to do and go for it. No regrets. Yeah, no regrets. So one of my greatest ambition, just to share with three of you, I'm not at that level yet, because my fitness level is I need to go and get it up. One of my greatest goal is to actually go to Everest Base Camp. Actually go to Everest Base Camp. How am I going to get there? When I'm going to get there, I don't know. I had a chance to go in 2018. I was not ready. Most probably next year. Everest Base Camp, November 2021. That's big picture thinking. That's my goal.
Wow.
How do I get there?
November
I got to start working on myself.
Waiting for your post on Facebook.
Yeah.
On
So all three of you are
November.
invited to be with me in the journey to Everest Base Camp.
Yeah, I haven't even tried the jumping aeroplane one. Both of you have done it already. Oh gosh. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So that's the 4 L's. Yeah, over there.
You're leaving. So, your take, Shiza.
Yep, living absolutely is important. There's a lot of concept that's flying around in the world, you know, and in leadership and in training, all those things, right? But nothing beats living or action. Get into action. Yeah, even like one of the key thing, a lot of people are saying we have to be more agile, more resilient in this age now. We have to be more creative and innovative. And I always say, you know what? Stop reading, just go and do it. Yeah. Because when you are in action, you begin to see what works, what doesn't work. And your mind start cracking up and see like, oh, I could do it this way. On book or when I was planning, I didn't thought of this way. Okay? Your real creativity and real innovation comes when we are on action, when we start facing problems, and then when we start reaching out to people, hey, how do you overcome that? That's where it become better and better.
So when picking up from that point, right? A lot of time we've been getting this sort of like I call that an excuse when someone wants to do that, but they can't even start. They are not allowing. Well, I don't know whether they're not allowing, but perhaps they don't have the strength or the guts to start.
No, there's only one thing. The one is not strong enough. The compelling reason is not strong enough. Yeah. So find a bigger reason.
So find
have a bigger dream. Yes.
Right. Sorry, Suza, continue.
Yeah. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's really get down to action, and that's why, you know, why we always say like execution fail, because lack of action, right? And we have so many plannings and so many nice presentation, either online, offline, or in our head. You know, yeah, a lot of ideas. Yeah, but nothing beats executions. Yeah, and the one who becomes successful, I mean, these are the one who just do it without even know what's the theory and concept behind it. right?
Exactly. That's about what I'm to say just now. Like if you were to really live, you have to be okay with start, starting out of like a jumping without light, jumping in the dark or starting in the dark.
Yeah. Your path, your journey, how you getting there, you might not know how. Okay? But your end goal, you are very clear. I want like for example, Darren want to be at the base camp. He hasn't has like beautiful plan out roadmap how to get there yet, but he knows he already set a goal, right? December. Right? Yeah. So then when your compelling reason is so strong enough, your brain start looking for answers, start looking for solutions. It might not be in you, it might be from other people, but that's where law of attractions and but law of attraction can be explained with science. Why go and read my book.
Yeah. We can have a session about Susan's book. That reminds me of Omar. Omar, does this ring a bell for you? Because every time because me and Omar we've known each other for quite some time, and in fact when I started to when I started the video session last time, right? Omar was like so afraid, not afraid lah.
Yeah, yeah.
He
Well,
was
basically, was afraid. Yeah.
yeah, afraid of doing it. But I told him like, just do it. What are you? Nothing to lose. This is all about journey of experiencing, and it's a journey of learning. So it's about just do it, and it's okay whatever it takes. You have to do it whatever it takes, and it's okay for you to experience the ups and downs, and you have to be always ready about the bad consequences as well. Okay, Omar.
Yeah. So this is where I want to jump in and talk about, well, not talk about, but just point out that um, about the doing. So Shuza, you were saying something about the reason is not compelling enough. All right. So a lot of times we do things when it's very compelling and we have to do it. But if you notice, there are two kinds of people: some who do and some who don't do. Right. And here's how I see things. I see this as a habit, as a style. What I mean by that is this: if you get into the habit of doing something, it's easier for you to do. Right? I know this sounds really funny because okay. So here's what let me. I'm trying to think how to say this so that it's clear. If you're in the habit of just thinking about things and not doing it, guess what? You're making that habit strong, right? So you'll always be thinking about doing it and not doing it, but yet you don't do it. So the idea here is to get to the habit of doing things so that it becomes easier. So then you don't even need a compelling reason. You see what I'm saying? Because there are people who have such a colorful life, they're always doing stuff. And there are others who are always thinking about doing stuff, but they never do it. Until there's a compelling reason. But you don't want to wait for a compelling reason. Because if you do that, then your life is going to be, the things that you do in life is going to be sporadic. That means sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't happen. So you want to get into the habit of just doing things and get used to that. And I can say that because I'm one of those who like to live in my head. I want to do this, I want to do that, but I never get off my butt, right? Until I get to the point where I say to myself, I got to do things that I think about, no matter how small they are. Because then it's not about the size of the thing that you want to do, it's about the action. So the minute you start doing things that you think about, it becomes a stronger habit or a stronger action. And then the habit becomes an attitude towards life. So I think when I started to shift that way, life became more meaningful.
Nice.
Yeah. So yes, I agree. When you're not doing something, it's because you don't have a compelling reason. But if you wait for a compelling reason, you're going to be missing out in life. So it's about creating the habit of doing things. Just do things.
Right.
Yeah. And also be mindful about being caught up with the activities in life. you know, when we are talking about compelling reason is when we want to have a shift or when we want to achieve a goal that we have not have it yet, but we are so people to have it. Like for example, climbing, go to the base camp, right? So that is not something normal to us. Yeah, or even get back to health. There are some people that I know it's like during MCO, like putting on weight and then they want to lose weight, right? And what you are doing is like Oma, what you're doing is you already know what you want to achieve. Like for example, you've been talking about writing more and things. I wish you started to do a lot more during MCO and you do it consistently already. Now, when you already know your end goal, you don't even think of your end goal already because it's in you already. Now, what you did was there's a book that Archie wrote about it. It's called 5 Seconds Rule. When you think about something, you only have 5 seconds to do something, to move your body, okay? To move your physical being, either get out of the chair or whatever, okay? And why 5 seconds? Because if you do not move your body in within that 5 seconds, your mind will start to negotiate. Should I know? Maybe today I'm very tired lah. Maybe I won't do it today lah. Then give in already lah.
I have a last question for Darren and Suza, but before that, let me address our audience, Nur Alina as well. Thank you so much, Nur Alina, for being so active in the discussion today. She has a question. How do I cultivate the habit of doing things? Do you mean the mind got to start thinking differently first, then actions follow? Perhaps, Suza, would you like to address this?
Don't worry about the mind. Most of us, we use too much of our mind and didn't do anything. Move our body first. So what you want to do is, just for example, think of something that you've been wanting to do and have not started doing yet, right? So that's where your end goal is lah. And what you do is, the moment at any day you thought of maybe this is a good time to do that now. Just get out from the chair, or get out wherever position you are, move your body, move your physical form, and get towards that. Then you start doing already. That's the 5 second rule.
Yeah. Can I just reinforce that? You know, a lot of people are thinking about big things, right? How do I change myself? I got to do the big things. It's not about the size of the things that you do. It's about the action that you take.
Yes.
Right. So yeah. So the 5 second rule is so key. So for instance, if you feel that, hey, I think I need to throw out the garbage now. Well, you go do it now.
Yes.
Right? If I need to, you see, this is it. You know how after you makan, you go to the kitchen and you put your plate in the sink and you go, I'll do this, I'll wash it later. Right? Now, guess what? The more you do it, the stronger that I'll wash it later becomes. So what do? You just have to wash it immediately and then do it again. After a while, it gets stronger and stronger that you do it, right? And then, so it's not just about washing plates, it's about taking action. So you want to cultivate the habit of taking action. And it begins with anything small, anything small, because the big things are too big. So it's the small things that makes it easier to do.
Totally relatable. So my last question for all of you, also relating to living just now, does it mean that we have to also go against the flow of the world? Meaning you do things which are also that are not agreeable to most people surround you or your surrounding. Meaning you are going against the flow of the world. So does that mean that you have to also need to be able to do that? Darren?
It depends on the individual, I think. For some people that might work, going against the flow. For some people, it may work in some phases. For me, personally, yes, going against the flow. My father wanted me to join the military, the Navy. I never did. I went against the flow. So no regrets. It turned out to be a very nice life. So it goes back to the individual, I feel. Some people feel that they need to follow the flow to a certain level and then decide on their directions. Some people don't follow the flow from a young age. So once again, it's really up to you. It's an individual choice, right? That doesn't mean if you follow the flow, you will not live a full life. It just means that you have made choices in your life. And what Omar said just now, small step, baby steps. Patterns equals to habits, habits equals to rituals. And that's the pattern of life. right? And if you choose to go down a more safer route, it's fine. It's just a matter of choices.
And one of the great questions to ask ourselves is, in the last 90 days, what is the new habits we have formed? Deliberately, not not because of condition, then we form bad habits, but deliberate good habits that we wanted to form and we have formed.
Yes.
Okay, and we still have time, because I can tell you, even after this MCO, the way of how we do work and interact with clients has changed. You probably have another half a year to 1 year or 2 years to form new habits, you know, if you're going to form during this period. Okay, and one of the questions our audience, Anna asked, you know, should we also eliminate the limited belief? Definitely. Okay, definitely. Because if you already know certain beliefs is stopping you from achieving your goal, you just have to find ways to overcome it, or even learn from other people. Hey, I have this thought, what do you think? You know, yeah. So this is where mentorship, coaching is.
Yeah.
I think on that, right? I just have this a very, because I apply this to myself. If I define that belief is limiting me, so I know that I should do something about it, because at the end of the day, it has to start from within you. Others might be telling you that's not good, that those kind of belief you shouldn't be holding on to that, but deep in you, you are still putting that as a priority, for example. But if you already put that definition, that the specific belief that you have is actually limiting you, and therefore the next action is rather to work on eliminating those, right? Or rather gradually eliminating those.
The only problem is, more often than not, we personally we will not realize it. Yeah. So then the next person, who do you seek counsel from? You know, so if you are learning, let's say for example, Darren want to go to the base camp, right? Don't ask us lah. We'll tell you why do you do it lah. Okay. But you want to ask those who have already moved there, who have already achieved it, right? Then, yeah, people who are sincere, who have done it, who have gone through the path, you know, then they will give you real feedback. Other than that, naysayer.
Right.
Yeah,
So you
no,
take Suza. Okay. Omar, continue.
Yeah, when you talk about limiting beliefs, I agree, Suza. A lot of times we don't realize there's a limiting belief, right? So unless you have an instinct like what Jack was saying, you kind of deep down inside, you know it's limiting. But a lot of times we don't realize it's a limiting belief. Now, this is where I feel that the last L, look extensively, comes into play. Because what you need to do to get a big picture is look around you, look at people who are successful, read about them, get to know them if you can, you know, and these don't have to be big personalities. It could be your friends. It could be somebody next door who's doing all kinds of stuff. So you need to look extensively to see how they operate and then compare. What's the difference between them making things happen and me not making things happen? Is there a belief that I have, you know? So and again, I can say all this because I'm one of those who actually climbed out of my shell by doing these kind of things. And I was fortunate enough because I had one good habit when I was younger, which is to read. You know, I've always been looking for mentors in my life, but in the end, what I did was I always ended up at the bookstore reading. Of course, today I'm in the circle of friends who are trainers and facilitators and you know, coaches, and so I've been very fortunate. But yes, look out to your friends. Make friends with those who are successful, who are doing things, who are moving, who are living life, you know, and basically just have a chat with them and look at how they operate.
Right. So coming back to the initial question, Suza, your take around living, does it mean that you have to go against the flow of the world?
Not necessarily, like what Darren has said. Yeah. At the end of the day, is to me is this, in everything that we want to do, there are always principles, and principles are nature's law. Okay, universal law. You can call it God's law, whatever it is. But principle never change, right? So the main thing is to look at what we are doing. Is it against the principle or not? Right? And the public, is it against the principle or not? If you are happens to be in a community, you know, or a society where they are going against the principle, then yes, you know, be radical, be the change, right? Yeah. But if they are following the principle and you are not, you better watch out lah. Okay. But of course, you won't know, right? Until and unless you like what Omar say, you know, learn from someone else. Learn from someone that path that you want to walk towards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to learn from people who are already successful. You know, like nowadays there are a lot of like free webinars and all those things, like teaching people this and that. And my first thing is that, how have you done it? As in, like, how what is your success level? Okay, like for example, very simple. Say financial planner lah, right? I only buy insurance from people who manage their finance well. If they call themselves financial planner and they have like personal debts, bad debts, very bad in managing their personal what do you call money, why do I want to learn from them? You know what I mean? Yeah, so who we seek counsel from, who we look up to, who we seek mentor, and everything we do, you know, if you're breaking through, let's say for example, start a new thing, yeah, always have mentor, and your mentor can be books. That is a fantastic way. Yeah, so yeah.
Right.
Yeah, just to add to that, when you talk about looking at mentors, a lot of us are limited by our friends. What I mean by that is we turn to our friends and to our family, right? So if you're in a family who are non-entrepreneurial and then you decide that, hey, I want to be an entrepreneur, and then who do you turn to? You turn to your family and you say, hey, should I do this business? What do you think they're going to say? They're going to say no.
Yeah.
Right? So if you want to be an entrepreneur, look for entrepreneurs, you know, and talk to them, right? So this is again where looking extensively comes into play, right?
All right. Ultimately, having this big picture thinking is about expanding your world.
Yes.
Find your own way. Find your the comfortable way that you can, you know, expand, that allow you to expand your world, right? So I have very last question to all of you. Probably this question will put you on the spot. How do you see yourself as a big picture thinker? So let's start with Darren.
How do I see myself?
Big picture thinker, yeah.
If you're going to think big, right? The most unpopular person said that, which makes it one of the biggest truth, which is Donald Trump. He's the most unpopular person in the world right now, but he said that before he became the president. So here's the result. No matter what you think of him, look at the result. He thought big and he became the president of America. So if you're going to think big. I believe that I follow that philosophy. Of course, I believe in hard work. I believe that if you may have a big dream, something significant, but if you don't put in the effort, you're not going to achieve it. So like what I mentioned, I've declared that Everest Base Camp is 2021, November. So I'm going to work towards that to get my fitness up. So I got to put in the work. Yes, like what Susan said, it's not just good to just have a dream, but not put in the effort. It's a work in progress. So once again, Jacqueline, Susan, and Omar, it's an open invitation. Make it your dream to go to Everest Base Camp, and then we can go together lah. Yeah.
My aim is not Everest Base Camp. I've done hiking in Dolomite and I'm going back to Dolomite.
Wow.
The Alps, I love it. Yeah. Yeah, and that I invite you guys to come. You will love it.
All right. So next year there's so many hikes that I need to go.
Darren, have you done Kinabalu yet, Darren?
I've done Mount Kinabalu 4 times.
Yeah,
Okay.
you mentioned about that.
Yeah.
Okay. So Susan,
What's the question again?
how do you see yourself as a big thinker, a big picture thinker?
Oh, people who knows me says that I always venture into something new. Like, why do I give up a big, huge, cushy job, you know, and then came on my own? Yeah, because I'm pursuing my big dream. Yeah, and why do I start writing the book? It was an answer, a certain specific questions that I wanted to answer myself. Yeah, and of course, writing a book has been my childhood dream lah. Now it's like, okay, one day I'm going to write my book. Yeah, but this book idea never came until end of July, August last year. Yeah, then I finished writing it in somewhere December. Yeah, then after editing, and then MCO came. So now I edit again. Yeah, so at my personal life, at this period, on top of what I'm doing in my consulting, actually I don't do much of my consulting. Mostly my ex-clients, you know, through company, the consulting company will call me and say, hey, we got this job, you know, can you do it and things like that. Yeah, but other part of my life, I spend a lot of time actually looking into investment. Yeah, and also growing another e-commerce business that I already started many years ago. Yeah, so that's my private life. Yeah, so a lot of people say, "Wow, you are like do a lot." I said only three things. Consulting has been my 20 years lah, so continue lah. Okay. Yeah, then trading and this investing I already started like about 5-6 years ago, because one of my long-term dream when I was in my mid 30s is by 40s um, I would be able to retire from 9 to 5 and have the options, to either go back to work or not going back to work. Yeah. So, and even during this period, MCO, I have like at least 3-4 calls from the headhunter and say, hey, company want to meet up with you. I say, not for market now. Open to go back market now. Yeah. So, and the other one is, of course, the my this e-commerce business, because it actually focuses on building asset. To me, at this point of my life, in the next 50 years, to prevent the next 50 years, my focus is asset. Yeah, and I'm in the midst of actually writing a ebook why we should be building asset. And asset is not just money. Yeah, it's there are a lot of other forms. And if you're looking at money, I can tell you the value of money are going down like crazy because of all the printing. Globally, there's 300 over trillions of debts, global debts, yeah, government's debts and whatever debt. So money, currency, the value of currency is just dropping, and is going to continue to increase. Yeah, so we have to diversify and then really focus on building asset. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Just to add on a bit of what Susan's mentioned, she seems like very accomplished, but she has time to go out for nightlife. Both of us once in a blue moon. Okay, or twice. Okay, twice. Yeah.
That turned out to be a Valentine's date with Oma. Thank God it's Oma.
All right. So Oma, yeah, how do you see yourself as a big picture thinker?
Yeah, I actually consider myself a late bloomer. And I marvel at people who have big ideas, and I'm looking at them and I'm always amazed. People like Elon Musk. I mean, how can you think about going to Mars, right? Steve Jobs, all these people, how can they have such great big ideas? And then also some of your friends that you have, where they think about big things, like for instance, they want to have a trip around the world with their family and things like that. So thinking big is a relative thing as well. So like for me, right now, being able to be present doing online shows like this is a big picture thinking for me. So I'm still there. I'm still infantile when it comes to big picture thinking, and I marvel at those who are doing it. And I'm always wondering, what is the key? What is the key that I can use on myself? That once I turn it, boom, I become a big picture thinker. And when I say big picture thinker, I'm talking about really big pictures, right? Like doing something global or things like that. So what I do there though is that I associate myself with people who are progressive, who are big picture thinkers compared to me. And I've been fortunate that friends that I mix around with are big picture thinkers. They think about doing business globally, things like that. Yeah. So, which is great. Writing books, so that's what I do. I associate myself because I want to have that. Which L is it, Darren? Looking extensively or learning from others as well. Yeah. So you need to have.
Yeah. And don't feel for the general public, don't feel bad that if you felt that your big picture is so small compared to others. All of us starts from small, right? I still remember in my teen and 20s when I haven't stepped out from Malaysia before, I'll always look at people who travel and say, wow, until I had my first travel. Okay. Yeah. So you grow. Yeah. You continue to grow. Your big picture continue to grow as you grow.
Right. Thank you so much for that, Susan. And as for me, how do I see myself as a big picture thinker is I I am always in this practice of expanding my horizon. That's why also I started this POV. First thing first was because I want to learn from my friends, because I know that I have been, well, I mean, those friends that I have, like all of you here, people that are experts, yeah, that you have your own expertise, then why don't I create an venue where, apart from me learning from others, from my friends, but also we can, I can share this a venue for others to learn as well. Yeah. So I think that gives me that motivation to keep moving in my life. I can totally relate during this MCO that sometimes there are instances where you feel that the moment you're getting over, or rather your momentum is not as good as before MCO. But having this kind of practices, I think that gives me that momentum to continue on. And I'm so thankful as well, because you guys, you've been supporting me and also the show, Darren and Omar, and also Shuza. Yeah. So thank you so much for that. And also I would like to acknowledge our viewers. Thank you so much for our regular viewers. Thank you for be part of the show. And like as usual, like we always say it at the end of our program, that if we are actually allowing, or rather we would like to open the session to anyone that would like to share something, to add value to others. If you have something to share, do reach out. You can either PM me or Omar. Perhaps we can have a specific session for you to talk about your subject. And before we end the session today, I would like to announce our program tomorrow. No, Friday, sorry, Friday. So for that, I would like to do a share screen. Let me do a share screen. Okay, on Friday, we will have a session with our good friend. Omar, would you like to say something about Martin?
Okay. Well, first of all, Martin I don't know Martin really well, but I know him through Jack. And at one point, I sought his counsel as a coach. And interestingly enough, he turned some switches on. But Martin is someone who listens, who listens, yes. So this is one guy, when I had a session with him, my experience of him is he listens. And when I say he listens, you can tell that he's fully focused on you and he's paying attention. And in that way, I got a sense of confidence or comfort that he is taking my interest at heart. So I think Martin will be sharing a lot more about how to make those kind of meaningful connections. Yeah, so stay tuned for that. I'm going to go on mute because of the drilling of Jack. It's really noisy.
All right, so let me also give a summary of the session on Friday. In this session, Martin, the transformation consultant at Ideascape Consulting Group and the founder of Happiness Dojo, will share why it's key for businesses to focus on building meaningful connections and how businesses can use meaningful connection to their advantage. So stay tuned on Friday. It will be 2:30 to 3:30. All right, so let's end the session today. Thank you so much once again, Susan, Darren. We will have this Wednesday session every week. We have fresh new topic next week. What is it, Darren?
Next week, well, definitely in line with big picture thinking, we are going to be having lessons from Jack Ma. Right, so I encourage you to read his book, and we can talk about how he talks about how he uses the lessons or the failures of his life to propel him to where he is today. Yeah, that will be next week.
All right, with that, we are signing off. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. I'll stop the streaming. Okay, that's good. You're no longer live.
Oh, good stuff. I know, Darren, you had a lot of stuff to say, but as usual, Darren gets interrupted, and then the discussion goes everywhere. But you always bring it back and continue on with your with the subject matter. I really like how you handle that part, Darren, where you get hijacked, your topic gets hijacked, and then we bring it back
The
in.
hijacker.
Okay, it's okay. I think as long as all of us learn something from the sessions, that's the ultimate goal lah. So that's the big picture thinking, right? So all of us to learn something from this.
Yeah, and I like the comments this time, because the comments are it's not just a comment; it's actually sort of like a question and answer. So it's very engaging. And there's a guy here named Salim. He's actually my I have a half brother. I mean, a brother from a different mother, and this is my nephew. Yeah, and I'm just realizing, because this guy, his parents have passed away, and he's saying thank you for the inspiration and things like that. And I'm just seeing more into this. What I'm seeing is that this guy is looking at our session, finding some form of learning, of coaching, and who knows who else are out there doing that.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
yeah, so we should continue that.
Yeah, she's friends also quite active, and also my friend Anna Shamila. Right. So
Yes, Elena is saying thank you for organizing this learning experience. Omar, Susan, and Darren for sharing your expertise.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Nur Imana is a HR, quite a senior position with the company. If I'm not mistaken, she should be a head of HR for some company.
Right. Nice. Shuza, so I'm asking Shuza, because we do this every week. Hopefully, if you're free on Wednesday, you can join us again next week. Yeah. Yeah.
Next week, give me a sec. Yeah. Wednesday, right?
Yeah, we do this. But usually we do this 2:30, but we are quite flexible today, because Darren got TTT, Darren.
Yeah, I mean, actually in class right now.
Oh, jeez.
Thank you.
But I promoted I promoted the points of view to my participants as well.
Thank you. Thank you for the commitment. Right. Us
My
and
pleasure.
Darren, yeah, we have been doing this for many months already, since MCO, our MCO.
Very good, actually, because it's consistency, then you start bringing.
Jack, I think it's episode 27, not 26.
Oh, is it? Okay, so we change.
Anyway.
I lost count.
Anyway, I gotta go, guys. I got a meeting outside at 2:30, so I gotta run.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks again, Darren. You've been the anchor for this the Wednesday shows. And Susan has been Susan has been awesome to have you on board. So great. Thank you again. See you, Jack.
Hi, Darren.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Guys, bye.
Bye. Take care.
Take care.
Okay, bye. Thanks.